too close to the camera. All right. Hello. Welcome on in, everyone. Hello. Please let me know if you can hear me okay. Welcome on in. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join and our guest. Perfect. Thank you. Hello. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing your Friday evening with me and us. Hello. How's everyone doing? I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself before our guest joins. So my name is Brenda. I am currently an ENT Doula student, part of this current cohort number 7. I'm also a storyteller and a beautician. And tonight I have the pleasure and honor of interviewing one of our featured doulas, Tanasia Lea, and she just hopped on. So, hold on, I'm gonna invite you on. Or do you ask to come on? She's gonna come on in a moment. So yes, tonight we're gonna be interviewing Tanasia. Hey, Janadra. Tuning in from, and please share this live. This is going to be a very insightful conversation, and I'm so excited.
Hi, Brenda.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. I am doing good. I'm so happy to be here.
Excited, and thanks for, I know it's late on the East Coast. I'm zooming in from, or coming in live from California, so the light is real.
Right. You got that. You still got the sun still shining on you. That's nice. Yeah, it is. It's okay, because it's Friday night, so it feels like things are starting to...
An information kickback. I almost encouraged when I posted the graphic for tonight, I wanted to encourage people to bring their favorite beverage. But
exactly. No, I had the same thought. I'm like, listen, it's Friday night. You know what I mean? Like, come with your drink, whatever you like to sip on a Friday night, and let's just chill. So it's so funny that she thought of that. I thought of that too. We'll do that the next time. But how are you doing?
I'm well, super busy. As you know, I'm training right now, trying to jump really far. I'm a triple jumper, which is an event in track and field. And so training, motherhood, still working. And so it's super busy, but super good. I'm super grateful to be able to do all the things that I want to do. It requires much balance and patience and grace, but I'm grateful.
I love it. And you're doing it. Oh my goodness. So for everyone who does not know, I imagine there's a lot of us in here, ENT doulas, that we haven't met. So this is great because this is an opportunity for us to get to know one another. But you are our featured doula this month, and so we wanted to highlight you and everything that you're doing, and I guess just bring some of your work to the forefront. And so that's what we're going to be doing tonight, and that's what my intention is to celebrate you. And I also wanted to open the floor up for people to ask questions. So the later half, please, everyone that's tuning in, feel free to ask questions. Let's see if I could turn on this feature. Okay, they have the feature on their end. But yes, so we'll get started. Tell everyone who you are, what you do. I'll let you introduce yourself for real, for real.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm from Connecticut, which is super important in the sort of telling as to how I came to know ENT, but currently in California. I'm with my family. I live with my partner Jeremy and my baby girl Ocean, who's 2 years old. That's the introduction to how I enter spaces now, because I'm realizing being a mother and being a partner is priority, is first and foremost to the way that I enter spaces and what I bring into those spaces. Secondary to being a mom and a partner, I do a bunch of things. As Brenda alluded to, I'm currently training. I'm a DEI practitioner in the education space. I'm also an ENT doula. And so those are like the more professional parts of introduction, but really I live at the nexus of purpose and making sure that all the things that I do are closely connected to my role as a mother, my role as a Black woman who wants to move as closely as possible in the world that we live in to a self-regulated and stable body. And we'll kind of get into throughout the course of our conversation what exactly I mean when I say regulated and stable body.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm already curious. I'm like, I think I know what that means, but do I really? I feel like there's this theme that I've come across just meeting our doulas, is how we're multi-passionate, and through this work we're able to like merge all of our gifts and really channel it in a beautiful way. And that's something I feel passionate about showcasing, that this work can be exemplified in so many different ways. So for you, how has I guess what you were before and what you are now, like how have you synergized everything that you are? What does that look like?
So what I'm for now, when you say before motherhood and partnership or before becoming a doula, where is this
Before,
gonna?
okay. I was actually alluding to become before becoming a doula, but if you want to speak on motherhood too, you can do that for sure.
I mean, I can speak on that from so many points. I guess the most important to me is before becoming a doula, which the timeline of becoming a doula closely aligns with the birth of Ocean, right? And so when I think about why I wanted to become a doula, it has so much to do with this heightened awareness of my Blackness, specifically the ways in which the world attempts to control my body, right? And so I am a Black woman. I am a granddaughter of immigrant grandparents. I am the eldest of five. I am an athlete and have been an athlete a very long time. I'm a woman, right? And so just those parts and dimensions of my identity, we can begin to imagine the ways in which society attempts to control our body. I became super aware of the attempts to control my body actually after the passing of my stepfather. So my stepfather unexpectedly died in a car accident, a motorcycle accident. And to understand the dynamic, a bit of vulnerability here, our relationship was a bit strained for much of my adulthood. To know my father is to know a man who loved his children dearly, but to know my father was also to know that his love language was discipline,
Mm-hmm.
right? So much of the reason why our relationship was strained was because of that strict control over my body in my childhood,
Mm.
discipline. And it wasn't until his passing, and I mean, the universe does some crazy stuff sometimes. As part of my grieving, I buried myself in books, anything to kind of distract from what I was processing. And I picked up Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Mm-hmm.
And it was for me, and for those of us who are familiar with the book, Coates gives us a framework to understand the history of this nation, race, and how the racism and how the construct or the sort of racism exists primarily through the control of Black bodies. And so he writes this book as a letter to his son to help his son understand the ways in which the world attempts to control his body, in the ways that his own body has been controlled, to offer up an explanation as to why some things are the way they are. And for me, that book gave me the language around what I had experienced, right? As a child, I knew my father loved me, but I didn't quite understand the extreme or the extent to which he was expressing his love.
Right.
In my mind, it was essentially because he wanted to control my body so no one else could.
Right.
Right. For fear that once I walked out the house, others would attempt to control my body. And so that book gave me language. It gave me an information, and it gave me an avenue towards forgiveness. So, I mean, that book, like, everyone should read that book. That book is so beautifully written. It's wonderful. It was definitely a turning point in my awareness of my Blackness and the ways in which the world tries to control my body.
Yeah, no, it is a beautiful written book. I never finished it, but I remember having to experience the parallels between, like, he was writing to me, but then I was like looking outside of myself. Like, it was such an interesting experience to read the book because you really become a part of it, and essentially you are a part of it. So it makes sense that it would bring the words to your experience in the way that it did. And I'm glad that you were able to draw it back to that book, because now you have something to give other people who can't, who don't have the words for what they're experiencing. And as far as your relationship with your stepdad, I've definitely felt that with my father now in terms of control. And I feel like a challenge for me in this training has been visualizing how I'm going to support the couple, the union, when it comes to the mother's body, because of my own, of what I've had to overcome in myself. So just including the father in everything, because essentially they are included, but yeah, that's a conversation for another day. But it's just this training that it does that. Like, it does that to you, for you.
Right. And part of the process, in my view, and I'm 30 something years old. I've not been around for that long, but in my view, at least for me, part of becoming and understanding is this continuum of working through experiences and partially healing, partially understanding, like asking questions in an effort to just understand why you interpret the world the way you do, so that you can do so in the way that you want to. Right. So yeah.
Right. And in a way that's not harmful to the people around you either, so yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable in that way. So you felt inspired. It's almost like your life trajectory was bringing you to this work anyway, but do you remember one specific moment where you were like, I'm going to become a doula? And can you speak on your experience having a doula? Did one inform the other?
Right. Like, once you turn on the light switch of awareness, like, you can't ever turn it off. Like, at least if somebody knows how to turn the light switch of awareness off, please let me know, because sometimes I would like to turn it off. But like, right. And so up until that point, having this awareness and then expecting to enter motherhood and becoming pregnant with Ocean, I then started to become curious about the ways in which I would, as an expecting person, there would be attempts to control my body and the body of my unborn child, right? And so I was like, let me do some research. And it was after COVID, and so inundated with the ways in which white supremacy functions and controls Black bodies. I mean, that it was hard to, it was impossible to avoid, right? I did research and I was like, okay. I became aware of medical bias, medical racism, the history of medical racism. I started to read books like Medical Apartheid, and The Body Keeps Score to understand how to protect my unborn child, and to have the best, to my control, have the best outcome. And so I did some research and I found Earth's Natural Touch, and I called the number that was posted, and Cyanor received my call, and it was a wonderful conversation where I felt like I could be authentic. I could be myself. I could be honest, right? Previous to my call with Cyanor, who's a founder of Earth's Natural Touch, I spoke to, mind you, I'm living in Connecticut at the time. I call a couple of agencies, and I remember specifically asking for a doula of color. I was immediately told that my question was essentially illegal, and for discrimination purposes, they could not assign me a doula of color. I was like, okay, you just like it was like, okay, click next.
Right, you told me everything you need to, like I need to know. Like, okay.
With I was like, okay, like there was a sigh of relief because I felt like without having said much or having a super in-depth conversation about all the concerns that I had, that I would be tended to, that I would be taken care of. And so I signed up, and I was paired with two wonderful doulas, Farah and Kendra, and my experience was absolutely wonderful. It was wonderful.
Love it. Do you have any particular like memorable experiences with them in those early stages? Yeah.
So it was still like we were coming off of COVID. Ocean was born in March of 2022, so we were still sort of adjusting. Masks were still in full effect. But it was about the time where things started, restrictions to lighten up, and we just, Jeremy and I, my partner and I, invited them out to brunch downtown New Haven, and we rubbed and we bonded over food, and then like we went to the mall and went shopping after. Like
I know that's right.
It was awesome because it's sisterhood. I needed I needed that form of companionship. I needed to know that, right? Coming off of COVID was so impactful to the way that we interact with people, understand people, categorize people. I needed in that moment to know that the same person who was advising me on the birth of my child could also be the same person that I could connect with on a myriad of trivial things. Like that was important to me. That level of connection was super important to me because just like any other relationship, the depth at which you continue to learn and get to know someone lends to your understanding of yourself in the world, and you just feel so much more supported when you know people authentically. Right. And so that was meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah, and Kendra's so dope. I haven't met Farrah yet, but Kendra, I was like, you're my auntie. Like, you could just adopt me. And no, so I can imagine that it was a very warm, supportive experience for you. And I'm glad that you mentioned sisterhood, because that is definitely, like, hands down the common thread. I feel that binds us all. It's always mentioned. Like, we always say that word when we're speaking about our training. And did you want to speak more on that? I mean, you pretty much said it in such like a, yeah.
So from what I know about other doula programs and training, like they're very, very short. But with Earth's Natural Touch, like we do it right. Our training is 14 plus months, hour-long trainings, Like, it's so thorough, and it's the topics that we cover have everything to do with marginalized, underserved communities, primarily Black and Brown communities. It like everything that would impact the perinatal experience we discuss, we touch on, right? With that being said, it's a lot of work, and when I think of sisterhood and ENT, I think of classmates texting and calling and be like and asking, right, if you were late on an assignment or a group project, being like, "Are you good? Do you need me to pick up slack? How are you doing?" Push this to accommodate, because we hear you, we understand, and we have empathy for what you may be experiencing, but we're gonna you cross the finish line with us.
That part, yeah.
Oh my goodness, it was wonderful. I'm thinking of a couple in particular. I mean, organization on point. We even do like a personality assessment, a DISC assessment to understand.
Yes. Listen, that assessment
Are so we can best use their strengths and weaknesses to.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it.
I feel like I can't operate in other group or collaborative projects without doing an assessment. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, you know, because it's supported me so much throughout this journey. Truly, like, I'm so glad that Sai gave us that exercise, and it's just helped me check myself and be aware of my own blind spots. You know, I don't know if I'm a D. So I was like, yeah, she did that.
It was wonderful.
She did that. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, were you gonna say something?
Go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to ask too, was there anything during the training that kind of stuck with you, and that you were like, this is something I for sure want to take as I support families and communities?
Since becoming a doula, right, also informed by other parts of my identity as an athlete, as a practitioner of justice, and an advocate, I have since become like really passionate in helping others exercise agency and body autonomy. Yeah, I recently gave at the white privilege conference in Tulsa a couple months ago, where I started to explore how we can move closer to this idea of self-regulated and stable bodies. So not that self-regulated and stable bodies can be synonymous with body autonomy, a body that moves willingly and voluntarily, right? Not a response to stress, not a body that moves in a way that from pressure or in response to the sort of incentives of others. And that is something that from my training I've become super passionate about, and it's something I hold true in my doula work too. It's reminding whether it's partners or the birthing person that their body knows what to do, reminding them and empowering them that their body, the relationship with the body, is the most important relationship, right? And leads to the most outcomes, whether that's what you do during labor and birth or what you have done leading up to that, making sure that they understand that. And outside of the process and the experience of birthing, it's that relationship and can be super productive outside, in other words. So.
Right. That's beautiful. I think, like, when you bring that awareness, it's almost like another modality of healing that you're doing as well, because I feel like oftentimes it's not until you are pregnant that you're met with whatever traumas that, you know, one could be really good at suppressing, to where it's almost they forget that they've experienced it. But of course, like you mentioned earlier, our body our bodies have memory, and when it's time for that time, like, it's going to be revealed. It has to be revealed. And
Right.
so for you to come during that time and bring that awareness, I think is so beautiful.
Right. And also understanding that there are things completely out of our control that have impacted the ways we embody, whether it's trauma or the responses that we have, right? That our brains and the neuroplasticity around our brains have evolved as a response to trauma, right? And while we may not have been able to make what happened before we were born or the things that we experienced earlier in life, it's the understanding that that relationship between you and your body, working through that and healing, as you say, will lend to more positive birth outcomes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's true on all levels, whether it's the physiological, biological processes that your body will go through, or if it's the relationship that you have with your body that allows you to self-advocate, right? And so it impacts the body on different levels.
Right. Right. That's beautiful. That's amazing. I've never heard it explained in that way before, and just be connected from all different angles, like, not like you were saying, not just physiologically, but with the brain and what it's established from these patterns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just makes you think so much more deeper about your experience, and we need to invite more intentional just thinking about our experience. Really. And we need to know that it's okay to think more mindfully and intentionally about our experience. Like, we deserve that intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it. For everyone that's just joining, thank you and welcome. Feel free to let us know where you're tuning in from. And yeah, we're having an amazing conversation so far. This is really dope. Really, really dope. I want to ask about your journey of motherhood now. So we're shifting from you as a doula to Tanasia the mama to Ocean. How has motherhood been for you? Yeah, we'll start there. How has motherhood been for you?
Yeah, motherhood. Every time somebody asks me about my baby, I get teary-eyed. Motherhood has been the most healing process for me. And motherhood for me has been the attempt to so many things.
Yeah.
Childhood, alongside Ocean, to constantly be reflecting about those things about my own childhood that I really value, both for their sort of like positive and negative impacts, right? Motherhood has demanded that I be the best version of myself, and with all aspects of my identity, constantly checking in to make sure that what I'm doing is healthy, knowing that I'm constantly a model and a reference point for this little human. Right. Motherhood is it like, she makes me incredibly happy, and she loves me. I just remember, so last week I competed, and coming back from an injury, kind of like struggling to find my rhythm again. And I'm trying to be super positive about it and have great perspective. And I walk out to the stadium and I just see her run to me. And I look at my coach and I just go, that's the best thing. No matter what I do, she's going to love me regardless. And so, like, that is like the most beautiful thing.
I love
the most.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aw, I love it.
This little girl.
I know. I know you can't help
Yeah.
yourself because you see it every
Mm-hmm.
day. You know, you're looking at them and you're like, you are doing, like, you're transforming my life.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yes.
beautiful.
Transform.
Do you do you feel like there are any like specific lessons that Ocean's here to teach you that you know only Ocean could teach you? Like just her, like her personality, her, you know, because I feel like children come into this world with their own set of wisdom, and they're really, you know, parenting us in their ways. So what do you feel like those lessons are?
I think reminds me to give myself grace. I think, right, and I'm an advocate of therapy, and one of the things I picked up, or my intentions with therapy was to be the best version of myself because I knew this little human would be watching. And in a session, my therapist reminded me that you need to give yourself grace. You need to know that even in all your ways that you try to mitigate the sort of things that you maybe projecting or tr- trying to be better than versions of your parents in all the ways that you think that they were negatively impactful. Like she is learning those coping mechanisms. She is learning the ways in which you are adversely trying to parent. And so it's a reminder to just give grace, give my parents grace, give others grace when they need it and when you need it. Right? There's I don't know if it's like a Virgo thing. I don't know if it's like, and I don't do astrology at all, but like I don't know if it's like a high achieving person thing. I think um trying to be the best version of yourself can also open yourself up to this unhealthy form of perfectionism that is just like so unrealistic and so exhausting and unsustainable.
Yeah.
And I think Ocean is here to remind me to give myself grace.
Yeah. Yeah. She'd be like, chill out.
If I want to
It is.
say, just relax and chill out. Like
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's yeah. She's she's also just like she's an awesome. She's like every parent thinks this of their child, but she's incredible. She's like a pretty cool kid.
Yeah. I think so too. Only like those few moments that I like heard her interacting, I'm like, I could tell she's pretty cool. Um, I also want to invite you to just speak on how Ocean's father has supported you, and I guess his best qualities as a dad. As I mentioned earlier, that you know, involving fathers in the conversation is something that I want to actively do as a doula, and so I want to just create space for you to do that for Ocean's Papa, and you know him as your partner.
Yes. So I made sure of Jeremy, even our conversations with Veronica and Kendra. I wanted him to feel a part of the team, a part of the process. He is a wonderful partner. He was a wonderful partner even through labor, postpartum. And I would say he you know that was unsurprising. Um, it's interesting about stealing his shine to tell his own story. He is who he is because of his experiences, and um, he is pretty public, and you can check online. He tells his story um, about Jeremy was adopted from Korea.
Oh, I think the sound is off. Can everyone hear, or is it just me?
Okay, am I back?
Okay, okay, yes, you are. Okay.
So Jeremy was adopted from Korea at the age of 3. He is Korean and Black. presents as a Black man. He was transracially adopted by a white family when he was 3. And so much of the way that he parents has to do, yes, with his experience. Once he was adopted in his family, he has very fond memories of his family. But also, as like, he parents from a place of not knowing who his biological parents are, and so Ocean is his only known biological relative.
Wow.
He
That's profound.
and he like I should probably turn the camera around because Jeremy's cooking. He's like grilling right here, and they're just, he is a wonderful father to Ocean. He is, I could not have imagined a better partner, a better role model, a better, like, it's, he's pretty awesome in that way. Yeah.
I love it. I'm sure it felt so like triumphant for him to become a dad.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, my father was also adopted, and my father has been able to give me insight, as someone who was adopted, the sort of challenges and struggles that people who were adopted experience, and that we're grateful for that perspective, because it I'm attuned to the being of yeah, it's really Ocean after, and she's just getting to the point where, like, she needs a little bit more, the voice needs to be a little bit more stern, and so you'll hear it get stern, but then very soon after you'll hear the sort of accommodation, and you're like,
right.
Okay, all right. But yeah, it's beautiful to witness,
Yeah.
and I'm super grateful.
It's cool that you had that insight as well, because you were able to, I'm sure, support him as his partner. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. A lot of these questions you have touched on naturally. But I did want to ask, I guess during your journey transitioning out of postpartum and back into preparing for competing again, like, what did your support system look like, and did you have any like figures that were your inspiration, like other Black women athletes? I see a lot in the media, athletes that are like job partnerships or brand deals after becoming pregnant, or after becoming a mom. And I guess I just wanted you to speak on that. Like, how have you supported yourself through that?
Yeah, the trans was one that I never, when I was done 3 years ago, I was done. I actually remember sort of like loading that I felt at the end of a season, and knowing that that was the final meet, because of, like, all the stuff that comes with being an athlete. It actually was through the support of Jeremy that I even entertained the idea of training again. We were in China just as recent as this summer, and spending time with the Olympic athletes there abroad, and not even working out on a daily basis, or like it was just the sort of like Jeremy coaching, Ocean running around in the gym, and me casually working out, where I thought about how wonderful it would be for Ocean to see her parents work together doing something. Now, Jeremy and I never worked together in this capacity before having Ocean, and so that's a whole nother conversation about how it is being coached by your partner. But I just thought, right, I have this short window of opportunity to be able to do this, right, biologically, as our bodies sort of like they don't recover as fast, or like our joints don't really take impact as well, to be able to show Ocean or expose Ocean to something different. And so if you had asked me 3 years ago when I was training what the point of training was, I would have quickly said, oh, to become an Olympian. You ask me now, and it's simply to show Ocean that she can achieve it, puts her heart to, that nothing comes easy without hard work and sacrifice, and you should not be bound by what you should do, but what you want to do, and never let yourself tell your story by leading with what I could have done. And
Right.
so, like, just to expose her to else, to see her mother and her father partner in this way, to see her mother struggle, to see her mother work through, to see her mom work hard. Yeah, I just think that, I mean, I think that's a gift to be able to.
It is. It is. How has she responded?
She's been days a week. The other day she's out at the track with us, and she gets too much attention. She literally is at the track with world champions and Olympians, and she's right behind them trying to go under hurdles, trying to jump over things, and she's the only baby at the track most of the time, so she's eating it up and like Ocean's auntie and uncle, and it's really beautiful. There's tons of support. This last competition, Jeremy was in Japan at Worlds for his para athletes, and I had a competition in LA, and so my training partner, who's also my coach as well, was helping me with Ocean, making sure that like Ocean was straight and like we were, settled, that we could focus on what we came to do that weekend. And it's like, it's a real blessing to have that support. Since moving to California, most of my family's still in Connecticut. And my training partners have been like the most wonderful supporters of me, Jeremy.
Yeah. I'm sure they eat those rolls up, because where else are they able to do that?
Right.
You know? It's amazing how you've not only preserved all aspects of who you are, but really heightened them with knowing that like Ocean is watching. And I think it's not just a story that you're telling for Ocean, but to other moms as well. Like, it's a beautiful story that you're telling and you're living out. And I just wanted to tell you that.
Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah, you're welcome. You are welcome. I found that clean beauty, organic beauty, is something that you're also very passionate about. And I had to mention this because I am a hairstylist. And I'm very particular about the products that I work with as well, especially servicing children and wanting to service also postpartum mamas and creating that experience for them. I guess, can you speak on that, and have you, I guess, wanted to cross both worlds, like how I'm doing? Is that something that you educate families on as part of your work as a doula?
Yeah. So it's all connected to that relationship with your body. Not many people there are so many ingredients, whether it's cleaning products or beauty products or self-care products, that are harmful to our health, whether they're hormone disruptors, synthetic materials, or even, for example, something like fragrance, right? We pick up a product on the shelf and we decide between two products based on how it smells. We turn around and look at the ingredients and find out that the fragrance or the scent of the thing is actually something called fragrance, right? Well, that's not really like informative as to the ingredients of what the fragrance is.
Exactly.
And
it's a makeup of
right.
things
And
that make it
so
happen.
essentially be anything.
Right. And they're not obligated to put that on there.
And ingredients aren't regulated. And so I think the US has only banned about, I think at this point it's anywhere between 35 and 40 ingredients from being used in the composition of everyday products. And so, right, when we compare our sort of regulation around these things to Europe, right, who they've banned over 1,600 of these products, whether red dye, or not being able to mask synthetic hormones under this like generic term fragrance. These are things in our everyday products that we use without mind, right? Whether it's like lotion or the hand soap that we use, or even the deodorant that we use that disrupts our body's natural processes. For example, like deodorant, you should sweat. Yeah, like you should sweat, right? It's your body's when you work out and you exercise to get rid of those toxins that you're flushing through your not the best thing to be blocking, right, your sweat glands, right? But
Right.
when we think about antiperspirant, right, and the aluminum blocks those sweat glands, like that's not really healthy. There are
Right.
other make sure you ain't like not funky when you're working out, right? But it's awareness. And so again, just like spreading awareness to these things, all in an effort to just like better that relationship in our body, ourselves and our bodies. So
For
they
sure.
were meant to do so they could do their thing. Like it's quite simple, but we've made it so challenging.
For sure. Yeah. Like it's our bodies are there's an attempt, like you were saying, for control and attack from so many different angles,
Control.
and sometimes in the most subtle ways.
Yeah.
So it's like if you don't step into that mindset of this is my body and I control how I experience it, then you're just vulnerable to all of these attempts to control our bodies. And unfortunately, for the most part, our reproductive systems and our wombs. So thank you for sharing that and bringing more awareness. I will never hesitate to speak on that topic because it's, like I said, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it just takes just to think, like, what can I decide? Like, what are alternative options?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you.
Right. But and to draw the sort of through line between why ENT exists to serve marginalized communities and what we mean when we say marginalized communities and underserved communities, we primarily mean those communities that have been the object of for-profit, communities that don't have access to whether it's resources, information, education, health, equitable health care, right? It's it's all connected, right? We, the question about everyday products, we think about the products that are like advertised to our communities and how harmful they can be, and then you do research on suboptimal birth outcomes, right? There's a connection there, as well as a food access, right? To education access. It's all connected in an ecosystem of suppression and white supremacy culture. And so, right, that like about why ENT exists and who it seeks to serve with purpose.
Exactly. I wanted to invite now our audience to ask questions. This has been really insightful. I really feel like I should have been taking notes, but luckily this will be saved and we can replay it everywhere. But as people, I guess, think about their questions and ask, please ask, you guys, because we don't know when we're gonna have Tanasia on the live again. Okay. So please ask. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I'm curious,
That you'd like.
as a student, what has been an interesting topic, right? We cover a bunch of topics in 14 months.
Yes.
Everything from trauma, womb trauma, to reproductive health, right, sterilization, to domestic violence and abuse. Like we cover like a wide breadth of topics. What so far has been like the most intriguing or interesting for you as a student?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I think one of the most interesting topics has been topics that I wouldn't think I would want to be skills in or master. And that was just understanding a pregnant woman's body. So just understanding like the phases, the different positions, like really getting real like biological and physiological, and seeing the visual of baby, and the different positions, because I think I came in with the understanding that I would support families in ways that I felt comfortable in, because, you know, why not? And that for me, that would be emotional, that would be providing resources, but seeing the importance of not only understanding what's happening inside the body and how what we do outside in terms of like positions and can affect what's happening inside the body, like that really intrigued me. And so I think that's been the most interesting thing. Like I see myself wanting to learn more, and yeah, it's really surprising, because I was really like, I'm gonna be there before and I'll be there after providing postpartum, but I won't be there in between. Like you can miss me on that. But now I'm like, wait, I actually do feel intrigued and I want to learn more. And so I'm glad. I'm really glad that that's opened that up for me.
Yeah, the body is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It truly is. Okay, we have some questions. Thank you for asking me that. I don't think I really acknowledged that until you asked, so thank you. Okay, so Janadra, she's also a current student. It's Ginger Spice Show. She asked, what tips do you have for new doulas stepping into the birthing space of today? That's a great question.
What I'm doing is being open-minded, right? Even as a practitioner of equity, and I still find myself sort of just like anyone else who's new to a space or learning a space, sort of operating on their own like schemas of how they things operate, or their expectations for how things operate. So and always be asking questions. Yeah, those are like the two things that, not just being a doula, just being like wanting to be
a better person.
Yeah, just yeah, definitely. Right,
Yeah.
because I think the experience of pregnancy is so different. It's damn near impossible to become an expert on it, and so the more experience that you can glean into or glean from, by way of asking questions, by listening closely, by seeking to understand, I think the better you'll be. But again, that's just like a general approach to most things. I
Right.
think.
Yeah. But no, I think that's really important when it comes to this work, though, because it has become a trend to be a doula, and I think when you are stepping into it, wanting to be humble and seeking to understand it, it sets you apart from everyone else that's in this for the wrong reasons. So I think that's some really valuable advice when it comes to this work.
When I think about my experience and the reason why I really like, I still communicate with my Farah and Kendra. I said every one of Ocean's birthdays so far, I send them like some pictures. Um, every so often, just thank them, because the throughout my pregnancy, I never felt as though, while they were not knowledgeable, I did feel there was a power dynamic, which, like, as a black woman, as a black person, as a woman, like, so often we have to kind of like play like the power dynamics are, we encounter all the time. I never felt that as a non-clinical healthcare provider that was inevitable, if that makes sense. I felt like I had their partnership. Um,
Right.
they were always asking questions. Um, when I was curious, my midwife, uh, courses. Yeah, it was wonderful in that way.
Right. Yeah, I think for me it's been especially disheartening to come across the power dynamic struggle, especially when it comes to other Black women, because I'm like, aren't you my sister? Like, what's going on here? You know, so it is very like disheartening, and I'm glad that you mentioned that it did feel more of a co-creation and a partnership, because that's how it should feel
Right.
like. You never want to be an experience where someone who's supporting you is coming in like, I know it all, and you know, because essentially it's just mimicking the system that we are challenging and going against.
Exactly. Exactly. Idea of system and the ways that we've all been socialized to behave, the ways that we've all been socialized to like subscribe to white supremacy culture, everything from this idea of paternalism to these power dynamics to perfectionism to like all the things that like tempt us to be like the rule followers in that way. Yeah, culture really, because it's like you can't see it and you can't name it, but it like in a various insidious way directs behaviors and expectations. And so, right, I think Farah and Kendra as my doulas, like it felt like I was elsewhere, like I was like
outside of this.
I didn't have to perform.
Yeah.
Like even is that like you interact with like I didn't feel pressure to be to perform or be perfect or to know, like I never felt expected to know something or like to ask questions for fear that they'd look at me sideways or like crazy. It was a safe space, and I'm like so grateful for that.
Right. ENT doulas, y'all. Okay, I just have to let it be known. Okay, so Amel, this is not a question, but she says, or they say, I'm also interested in diving into the physiological aspect of birth and pregnancy. Yes, it's a whole new world. It's a whole new world. Anyone else want to ask a question? I have one right here. Okay, so Chris asks, let me see if I can tap it so it pops up. Perfect. What advice would you give a pregnant birthing person who is nervous about the fourth trimester? Ooh, I feel like I would want to ask questions to dive deeper um, about what are their fears surrounding exactly. I guess kind of extract the story that they're telling themselves. I think sometimes when you ask questions about fear and you ask them in a way that they can verbalize it and really just stretch it out, they realize that, oh, it's actually not that scary, you know, or it just challenges them to think deeper. Fears come up and it's natural, um, but you definitely need someone to kind of stop that because it can turn into um, a harmful cyclical thing that it doesn't have to be. That's what I would start. Sorry, I feel like I just answered the question.
No, absolutely. I would
Yeah.
understand what's behind what's I would ask any questions. You just yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's about the fourth trimester specifically, or I would really just want to dive deeper. Um, and that's another thing too about this work, and I think really what this training has equipped me with is the confidence to dive deeper and know that um, it's still safe. Like I'm still guiding them in a safe way. Like I'm not gonna leave them hanging and wherever they go, you know, like I'm there to close and seal and hopefully transcend whatever fears come up with them. So,
Absolutely. As doulas, we provide emotional support, logistical support, physical support, emotional support. It's a it's wraparound care.
yeah. Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for that question. Okay, one more just came up. Any tips for a new doula when working towards getting their first client / once they obtain their very first client? That's from Ivana. Any tips for a new doula when working towards getting their first client / once they obtain their first client?
For me, well, find a co-doula, preferably someone who is more experienced than you are, to be able to support you, support your clients. Like ENT is wonderful because I can lean on Gina, who's like a bomb expert in lactate. Like it's having support. Um, it's having support from someone who has maybe a different skill set or expertise or more experience than you have, so that you can best support your client and also learn in the process.
Right, right. That's, yeah, I would say the same. Build your team, know what specialties other doulas have, what their unique set of skills are, so that if something does come up with that first client and you know that's not your strength, you have someone that you could refer them to. Um, yeah, I've definitely taken note, like, all the doulas and what they do that I know they do best, because I'm like, I'm gonna need you, keep you in my back pocket. And it's you want to be a part of a network like that anyway.
And also, like, outside of their doula expertise, like the people who are invited to join ENT are like really doable outside of being a doula too. So
Yeah.
that's also something to like also pay attention to. Network, the people are multi, right? And so it's just understanding who you have in your corner and who you have as just like resources to the myriad of things that we encounter as just human.
Yes. Yes. And why I'm so happy why we had this live tonight, because a lot of our doulas got the opportunity to meet you. And hopefully this is a launch of a new series where we invite more featured doulas on and we have conversations like this. I feel like this was much needed for me personally. Like I don't know, I just felt like I needed this conversation, and I'm really grateful. But yes, any other questions before we close? I don't want to take up your whole Friday evening. Next time we'll have our drinks, okay? We'll have our drinks. I'm actually parched, but that's okay. I will be prepared next time with my drink. Do you want to leave us with a quote, or yeah, leave us with like your favorite quote or word of wisdom?
Mm.
We got quotes for days.
I guess if I were to leave any words of advice, um, the word grace is just like on top of mind right now. Just give yourself grace. Really, give yourself grace. Um, I think you know when to give yourself grace, and you know when to hold yourself accountable to not doing the best that you can on any given topic, any area. But you also know when you also need to extend yourself grace. Yeah, it's important. It's important to the sustainability of the work that we do, to the longevity of the work we do, and for the success of the work. Give yourself grace.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you. We actually do have one bonus question. I don't know if you want to answer it on here or if you want to respond to Taylor individually, but she wants to know what your diet and workout routine is like, because she is inspired and I'm inspired too.
Let me.
So
That Taylor dance moves too. If I give her, I'm still nursing. I think that is it. that I learned. Like, I'm so nursing Ocean. But no, seriously, we could connect offline.
Okay.
But funny too because I'm in need of weaning tips and strategies because homegirl is strong arming me and pull it. Yeah, it's a challenge. I think I'm ready to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So any strategies or weaning advice? Maybe I should hit up Gina and ask her if she has any.
Yes.
Good.
So I'm glad that you mentioned it. So any doulas in here that have some tips for weaning, please help your girl out. I know ENT Fitness Edition, right? I love it. All right. So thank you so much, Tanasia. Thank you.
A lot of fun, and it was also like healthy processing.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Um, yeah, we're gonna close out. I wanted to remind everyone though, if you are a doula here with ENT, to check your emails, details about our retreat and our what's that word? I guess reunion, you could say. So please check your email. Amor says, let me know your routine too.
At 10, those are awesome.
What'd you say?
So mocha milkshake.
Oh yeah.
Saturdays, the virtual calls that happen for lactation support. Those are awesome. I should probably, it's been a minute since I popped on. I should probably hop on and ask.
Yeah.
For
Yeah, no, it's time. It's time. Aw. Well, I wish you the best in this new transition with Ocean as well, and in just everything that you're doing. You have my support, you know this, and you have the support of everyone watching. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you.
Know that I'm here. Reach out for anything.
I will. I will.
I wish you the best with the rest of the program.
Thank you. I know we're studying for finals, so I'm taking all the love I can get for this.
It's thick, but you got it. It's good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. But yes, enjoy the rest of your Friday evening, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.